What's up, everybody? Rob Ferrari here, and today I'm going to dispel those pesky myths that people love to pass around about cars like Ferraris. You know, the guy with the, oh, it's a $2,000 oil change. Not true. So the oil change, I'll use the 360 as an example, is slightly more complicated than drive it through the Jiffy Lube and flush it down and just top it off. The Ferrari uses a dry sump system. Dry sump system has a little bit more of a process. There's two drain plugs on the 360, one for the dry sump, one for the oil pan. You have to drain them both. It takes, and it's hard to get all of the oil out, but you get most of it out. The oil filter itself, 45 bucks. If you go to like Ricambi America, you can, and that's from Ferrari. If you go to Ricambi America, they sell like an oil service kit with the what used to be Shell Helix oil that they use, but now they use some sort of Pennzoil. I just use Mobil 1 synthetic. It's perfectly fine. And the cost of that, because I just did an oil change on this, was $79. I'll get into the two options. But Ricambi America sells the oil change kit for $188, includes the crush washer, the filter, and then the oil. Now, that being said, the oil change actually costs, it's about an hour of labor. So you're looking at, depending on where you go, if you go to a dealership, an hour of labor is going to cost you $175, plus they're going to charge you $200 for the stuff. So you're looking at about $375, and you have to set that at like the maximum. Like a $375 or $400 oil change is the most anyone can charge you, and that's mostly labor. The fact that you can go out and buy these cars and not be worried about, like, I need the Ferrari approved oil. No, you can get Mobil 1 synthetic or other oil that I've always said, if I can run it in my race car, I'm sure I can run it in a Ferrari. There's no magical Shell oil. I mean, there is manufacturer contracts that they have with certain companies that they will use their oil, probably through F1, but that doesn't mean that that car will only operate on that oil. The 360 itself, the oil change on this, $45 for the $45 for the filter. It was $80 for the oil. Labor, I had it done in house, but assume even labor for an hour, $100 an hour for a regular shop. You're looking at $170, $215 for an oil change, which is still a lot, but it takes a lot of oil. It takes, I think, 10 quarts of oil. It does have a $45 oil filter versus a $15 or $5 oil filter. And then you're not going to a $45 an hour mechanic. You're going to a $100 an hour mechanic. So a far cry from the $1,000+ oil change that people love to think about or tout, like, oh yeah, I heard those things are like, isn't it like $2,000 for an oil change? All noise, all BS. 360, 430, very similar. 458 also similar. It's not an overbearing cost, and you can do it every 5,000 miles. It's synthetic oil. I wouldn't necessarily do it sooner, and you can probably stretch it to about 15,000 miles if you really wanted to, because it's synthetic oil. But 5,000 miles for peace of mind at $200 an oil change isn't really a big deal. That's once a year. Yeah. So the maintenance, nothing to really worry about. We just swapped the tires on this car too. And the tires are another thing that, like, you don't need the OEM. And I sold this car to Nadia's husband, John. And he was like, oh, I'm looking to get tires. It was like $1,600 for the OEM replacement tires. Again, you don't need the OEM replacement tires. Technology comes a long way. And you can get sort of any good set of performance tires. You can look at reviews. You can speak to people who have owned them. And you can find a good set of tires for significantly less. I think these were about $700 a set. And it is, what are these? These are the G-Force. So these are BFG G-Force Sport tires. $700 for a set, and then $250 for an oil change, whatever it is. So $1,000 for an oil change and a new set of tires, much cheaper than even just buying the tires by itself, and much cheaper for the tires and the oil change than most people think it costs just to change the oil. So don't let the maintenance costs scare you, but make sure you're like knowledgeable about what maintenance costs are when you go out and buy cars like this. But don't think that you have to service it at the dealer. When I bought my 360, the red one, I remember the guy telling me everything was stock. It was always serviced at the dealer. And he had to let me know that he had an aftermarket battery in the car. And I'm like, whoa, easy there, buddy. And that is indicative of somebody who's now got a stack of maintenance bills, which are far too much, and he just spent more than he had to use and operate that car. So they're great cars. They're a lot of fun. Make sure you go out there and are aware of what the maintenance costs are, because it does cost more than the regular car. It's more than the Corvette to service and maintain, but it's not as expensive as you think, or you may think, to scare you away from actually picking one up, because it's cool. It's nice to own a Ferrari. It's nice to own a Lamborghini. It's nice to own cars like that. And if you're afraid to do it just because you blindly think maintenance is super expensive, that's not always the case. Thank you for watching. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you don't. If you do, awesome. Catch you next time.